do a lot of good research in our universities. And it is widely published also. But what happens is that usually we are not able to commercialize that because it's a very long journey and we don't choose to move on to that journey. Our research is, taken up by the West. It's usually open source. और वो उससे लेके बहुत से products बनाते हैं, commercialize करते हैं, and they make money. But I chose not to publish my research when I was doing my PhD. I chose to get patents on the technologies invented, and I decided to keep moving on and develop it into a product and then commercialize it. So the topic is aviation-induced global warming and climate change. Can you tell me how many of you are medical doctors? Okay, quite a few. So I think this is very related to your subject as well, because pollution is one of the areas that affects health in many ways. And as we've seen in our earlier talk, we talked about healthy lifestyles and healthy options. I would also try to give you some insight of how this affects health. Okay, so हम जब pollution की बात करते हैं, there are one major source of pollution on the ground. This is the greenhouse gas, which we call carbon dioxide. And that has many industrial contributors. There are lots of ways that carbon dioxide is polluting our environment. And there are various offsets as well. You can grow trees. You can have emission processing plants around the source of pollution. But then we also have pollution in the atmosphere. And in the atmosphere, we have two greenhouse gases, not just one. Not just carbon dioxide, but also water vapor. How? Because whenever you burn any hydrocarbon fuel, you get two byproducts, water vapor and carbon dioxide. Now, water vapor behaves as a greenhouse gas in the atmosphere because of the atmospheric conditions. It is not like liquid water. And there are no offsets. जो जहाज में से धुआं निकल रहा है, वहाँ आप क्या कर सकते हैं? क्या हम आसमान में लगा सकते हैं? क्या हम आसमान में दरख्त लगा सकते हैं? क्या हम जहाज़ के इर्द-गिर्द कोई emission processing plant लगा सकते हैं? नहीं. So it's a very challenging space. Whatever technology we have to put to reduce that pollution, it has to be on the engine and on the aircraft. And there's only one industry in the sky. All other industries are operating on the ground, and aviation is the only industry operating in the sky. So we have to move from zero carbon to zero emissions. What is zero carbon? When we don't have carbon dioxide emissions. And what is zero emission? When we don't have carbon dioxide emissions and when we don't have non-carbon emissions. So I will tell you what non-carbon emissions are. Non-carbon emission, अगर आपको ये नज़र आ रहा है, जहाज़ के पीछे एक धुआं सा निकल रहा है. Do we know what this is? What this white smoke is? Does anybody know? It has a specific name also. It's called contrail or a condensation trail. So as I mentioned that when we burn hydrocarbon, we get carbon dioxide and water vapor. Now carbon dioxide is an invisible gas. But what happens is then when hot water vapor or steam is released as a combustion byproduct, it freezes into an artificial cloud behind the aircraft engine. And that is visible as you can see, these white clouds behind the aircraft. And they are called condensation trail because it's condensed water vapor turned into a cloud. So as it is, we think that this is water, so it is not harmful. But on the ground, the same phenomena is taking place. When you see anything burning or some fire, you will see this hazy steam around it. which will repurpose as water. It will condense into water somewhere. But in the sky, because the atmospheric conditions are different, temperature is low, pressure is low, so this forms an artificial cloud. Okay, so what happens? It's an artificial cloud, but it is not within the it's not within the weather cycle. If you look at the weather cycle on the picture on the left, your weather cycle operates under 2000 meters. Any water vapor that goes up comes down as rainfall. But we are flying even above Mount Everest. We are flying at an altitude of 10,000 meters in cruise flights. So any water vapor that is given out at that atmosphere does not convert into liquid water as rainfall. It just remains there as artificial cirrus clouds, as the picture on the left, and they do not precipitate as rainfall. They just create a blanket on the surface of the earth, and that blanket is causing the greenhouse effect and therefore causing global warming. जो हमने पिछली स्लाइड में आपको मैंने दिखाया, ओके, और इस ग्लोबल वार्मिंग का जो हीट सिग्नेचर है, दैट इज़ 1 trillion watts, which is 1/3 of the world's annual electricity consumption, because we are trapping that much heat in the atmosphere. And then just relating this to, abhi Dr. Saab ne kaha that he only takes one supplement, which is vitamin D3. As a scientist, I've tried to explain this to a lot of people. If you go to the doctor and tell they would say your vitamin D is low, they would say पूरे पाकिस्तान की low है, या पूरे शहर की low है. But that does not justify that we don't take supplements. Why is it low? Because when there is a blanket of pollution on the atmosphere, we know that vitamin D is called the sun vitamin. It is synthesized with sun rays. So when there is this blanket of pollution in the atmosphere, the sun rays coming from the sun to the earth are refracted. They change their properties, they change their wavelength. And that is why we are not able to synthesize that much vitamin D. If this was not the case, if we had a pollution-free Pakistan, you would not even need to take that. So just adding this because it's in the context of the medical profession. Okay, this is the contrail cover that we have. The picture on the left is in 1992, jo red areas, and this is how these artificial clouds are covering our atmosphere. The picture on the right is showing what it would be in 2050. So this is the aviation's annual fuel burn is 4 billion ton, and the water vapor released is 5 billion tons, and out of which 50% forms contrail. So there are like 2.5 billion tons of artificial clouds in the atmosphere, and they are not in equilibrium with the Earth's ecosystem, and therefore they are causing global warming. Okay, so there have been many attempts to reduce the pollution in the air with some technologies around the world. One of them, you must have heard about electric vehicles and also about electric airplanes. So these are some of them. We have hybrid electric. This is like, you know, one engine that powers a few generators. So it's a combination of kerosene fuel and also electric propulsion. Then we have all electric. We have liquid hydrogen burning, because when you burn hydrogen, you also only get water vapor, you don't get carbon dioxide. Then we have hydrogen fuel cells, ammonia fuel combustion, where you burn ammonia to get hydrogen and then burn hydrogen to get the power, and sustainable aviation fuels, which have a process where the carbon footprint is low, and also supersonic commercial aircraft for reducing noise pollution. So in these technologies, so far our battery technology is not very advanced. In the world, we have not made a big breakthrough. So if you want to make an electric aircraft of a big size, you have to almost carry a commercial power grid in the air, which is not possible. So we have a combination. So some of these technologies are only applicable to small aircraft and some are only applicable to larger aircraft. So reflecting on my own journey, I was given this task in my PhD to work on contrails, as I mentioned, the white smoke that goes behind aircraft, and to bring out a solution to that problem. So that's like the problem at hand. Now moving on, I did some research during my PhD, came up with inventions as an add-on turbo machinery to jet engines that can process exhaust emissions and convert the water vapor content of exhaust emissions into liquid water and store it on the aircraft, which can be released later as artificial rainfall. So after finishing my research, as I mentioned, I did not publish. I moved on. I patented the research, and then I set up the first research and development company of Pakistan to work on this prototype. Pakistan mein, if you talk about aviation, it's only limited to defense or airline operations. There's no commercial aviation research. So this was the first company. And the solution we brought was, as you can see, in one of the engines, we have this add-on device that's giving out a clean exhaust, and the rest of the engines are basically giving out contrail. So this is the device that we started developing. So the purpose was that to condense the water vapor content of the smoke inside the engine and not release it outside, so that the source of contrails is eliminated. So then when we talk about the journey, the first thing is the research. We have to study what causes this problem. Why are contrails being formed? And we know that it's based on certain factors like the atmospheric temperature, pressure, the saturated vapor pressure of water at that temperature, and the size of the particle. If the size of the particle is in the order of 0.01 microns, that's the size of water vapor release, it will form a cloud. If it's larger, a cloud condensation nuclei, if it's larger, around 1 micron, it will form a direct cloud. If it's 100 microns, it would be rainfall. That explains that on ground areas, we get thick water drops and rainfall, and if we go to hilly areas, we get very thin rainfall and we get more clouds. Then we thought about how to prevent this problem. So there were two ways. Either you make it disperse into very small vapors or you condense it into water. This new invention was made, which was an add-on to the jet engine. And then this invention, after the research finished, was converted into a technical product. It was engineered into a product. We have in our research, we have technology readiness level. It's like a NASA standard where you define where you are in your product development. So initially in research, core and core ideas, the first 3 stages are TRL 1, 2, 3, technology readiness level 1, 2, 3 is the basic concept. You build a model, you build a mathematical model, you do some simulation. So this is where usually your PhD ends. Oh, that's what you do in your PhD. When you want to take it ahead, then you have to go to the lab environment. You have to build that product, and with that, you have to test it in the lab. That's TRL 4 and then 5, and then you have to test that in a more relevant environment in the field, and then you move on and you do actual flights and flying missions. That's technology readiness level 9, where you are commercializing your product. So it's long journey, but as our theme is, we have to keep moving on. That's what I decided. Usually in our country, we end it at TRL level 3. We just do the research, publish papers, get our PhD, and we think this is the end of it. But it's important. आइडिया किसी भी आइडिया के लिए जब तक वो एक प्रोडक्ट में कन्वर्ट नहीं होता एंड मास स्केल अडेप्टेशन नहीं होती, वो आइडिया फ़ायदेमंद नहीं है। या तो आपने डिसाइड करना है कि आप उसको, उस रिसर्च को उस लेवल तक लेके जाएं कि वो मास स्केल अडेप्टेशन और कमर्शलाइजेशन पे पहुंचे, या आपकी रिसर्च को फिर कोई और लेके आगे तक पहुंचाए। और अभी हमारे साथ यही हो रहा है कि हमारे मुल्क की रिसर्च और लोग लेके आगे पहुंचा रहे हैं। और इसी तरह बहुत से हमारे जो हमारे इवन जो हमारी प्लांट्स हैं और चीज़ें हैं जो कि हमारी पुरानी स्टडीज़ हैं, वो भी अब वेस्ट में कमर्शलाइज किए जा रही हैं। In order for commercialization and mass scale adaptation, you have to make a business case out of it. So for the business case, you need to understand the market. If you are doing something good for the environment, who will adapt it? Who will take it forward? Who will put it in use? So for our case, we know that this technology would be adopted by engine manufacturers, by aircraft manufacturers, and by airlines. So that's the way we study our market. So we know that how many engine manufacturers are there, what's the quantity of the engines selling in the market, what's the growth rate, how many engines will acquire this technology. Let me give you an example. We can make diamonds in the lab. But nobody makes diamonds in the lab. Why? Because it's very expensive. It's not saleable. So we always go for mining for diamonds. Similarly, so whenever we do some research and we bring about some discovery or invention, we have to see that it has to be cost effective and somebody has to buy it. So then we look at the ecosystem. Here we are making the contrail-free engine, which does not give out, which adapts our technology and does not give out contrails. And then we give it to engine manufacturers and airline manufacturers, and also to environmental agencies. Sometimes when we talk about regulations on environment, that something should be banned, it's bad for the environment, we always have to provide an alternate. Nobody will say, if I say contrails are very bad, they are causing climate change and global warming, and because of that we are having forest fires and floods on Earth, nobody will stop flying. That is not a solution. I have to give them an alternate, and that alternate is that yes, I have a new technology. If you use this, you will reduce the pollution in the sky. So you put a regulation on emissions of smoke in the sky. Right? So that's why your technologies must, for regulations, you must give alternate technologies. And then you make a business case out of it. If we are selling this product to airline manufacturers and to engine manufacturers and aircraft manufacturers, they are putting it together, they are selling it to airlines. And airlines can create artificial rainfall with this technology, and they can also get carbon credits. And the third benefit is that we can back up environmental agencies for regulations. Okay, now this is, then we have to, moving on, we have to give a financial plan. How much we will make, what would be the selling price, what is the cost, what is our profit, is it viable, not viable? So this is my team that has worked on it, and a few collaborations that we have done. And so my aim is Aero Engine Craft, my company. This was named by my daughter, 6-year-old daughter, here in the picture, inside the engine. She named my company, and we are on the path to blue skies again. Thank you.